Hello YouTube, this is Ben Yessel. I'm going to make at least one more video, possibly later tonight, but at least one more video. And in this video, I'm going to touch on more of a cultural side to food, and try to explain a few of the, we'll just say, kind of food psychology, according to my understanding, regarding different cuisines in the world. And I'm going to speak from personal experience. I know there are people out there that are much more qualified to talk about this than myself, but at least from my own experience, I'm going to try to explain why, at least it is for myself, why I like certain cuisines and how they work, because they work a little differently. Each one of them is just kind of operates a little differently. This is going to be kind of fun exploration. Again, I'm just kind of going from my own knowledge. We're going to go around the entire world. These are my favorite cuisines from around the world. We're going to kind of bypass the United States. No offense, we're not going to talk about the United States very much. I know one of the appealing things about the Northwest is our salmon and berries, and California has all the fruits and avocados. The South has all the deep fried stuff, and kind of how they use collards to kind of make it a little healthier, but all the southern soul food. And then there's the Northeast lobster and clam chowder stuff, and of course, But so that's that. I don't talk about the American stuff or Canadian. It'd be everywhere else, most everywhere else. Let's start with again. This is kind of a exploration of food, but more trying to explore how the foods and flavors of different countries work together, and contrasting and how it all works, and why it is that we might create one kind of food or this other kind of food, or some of it goes deep. You'll see what. Let's start with Mexico. With Mexico, again, I served at a church mission for 2 years in the Navajo reservation. So the Navajo is basically a lot like the other southwestern tribes, with the addition of they had more meat. I think mutton and lamb, and mutton stew, that sort of thing. So. But a lot of the foods that the Southwest Indian tribes have, the Mexicans also have as well, because it just grows in a similar kind of area. So if we're starting with Mexico, the thing about Mexico is that in my experience, right, and some of this crosses over with people and the culture, Mexicans, I think, like certain, they like a lot of flavor. But the flavor doesn't have to be super sweet. But it's nice if it is. But I guess what I mean is, like, they certainly have tomato, but more especially bell peppers, corn, beans, squash for the Southwest tribes, but Mexico. So you have a lot of the vegetables that are already part of the American Indian diet, that American Indians that were in the Southwest and Mexico, and so on and so forth, that it's a central part of the Mexican cuisine. But then you also have tomatillo and these a lot of onion, and of course cumin for spice, and of course chili peppers, as well as mole sauce or chocolate. And desserts and other things as well. Of course, all the different kinds of chicken and meat and that sort of thing, beans. So when I say flavor, and they like a lot of flavor. They like some of that sweet. I guess the sweet I'm talking about flavors. They like the lime, and with the tomatillo, it's kind of a mixture of fruit and vegetable with other things. It's not necessarily super sweet with Mexico. Whenever you have sweet stuff, it's like, yeah. And Doritos can seem almost jarringly sweeter. And they have the tamarind, and there's a lot of other, I know there's a lot of other fruits and vegetables I'm not mentioning here, but really the core of the Mexican diet, you can look at the corn and the beans and the, flour tortilla and a little bit of cheese and stuff, but really it's the fruits and vegetables that grow down there. And so they do value flavor, but again, it's not a super sweet thing. A lot of people say, well, what makes Mexican food tick? Well, it's that kind of challenge to see you can have the hottest pepper, and they love, I think that, Tabasco sauce, and that's a big thing. I think it's to tell you the truth. I think what kind of makes Mexican food work is it's kind of like you have just a good blend of food of what the different foods do. So you get in one little taco, or you get something. You get everything you need. You have your grains, right? You have your beans. You have a little bit of meat, depending on what you have. You get some spice. You get some cumin. You also have cilantro, right? And you have your pico de gallo for tomato and other stuff in there. And you get a little bit of a little hot sauce. You get some onion. You get some lettuce, right? Tomato. A little bit of cheese, maybe. Queso. And yeah, I mean, and it's all there. And if you look at, to say, tamale, a beef tamale. Oh, beef. Everyone loves beef, right? But wrapped in a corn tamale, and the way it's kind of cooked, it's kind of like, in a way, maybe similar to, say, Polynesians. Although I think in this case, the corn flavor gets in more into the beef, which you like. We like that flavor a lot. But Polynesians sometimes when they cook fish, cook it in palm, the palm thing. So I just am not probably as for me, I'm not as familiar with that kind of taste of anything from the palm leaf infusing any flavor into the fish in Polynesia, but maybe it does. Maybe that's why I like it. Maybe it's probably a good thing. I'm a little less familiar with that kind of flavor, but yeah, it's just that they all work together, and it's how yeah. So for me, Mexican cuisine, Mexican cuisine to me is not it's not necessarily super fancy, but the reason why it works well is because it's flavorful. All the flavors work together, depending on what you're doing, and it covers all the bases in just one little thing, And you can have the rice, you can have the arroz con pollo, or whatever. You can have a bigger meal if you want to, but you come up with and the burrito, and all these things that they have. They kind of cover the bases really, really well. My roommate, it was Mexican, and made Spanish rice once. It's really basic. It's some rice, onions, and I think he added a little bit of cayenne pepper or something at one point, or tomato, chopped tomato. But these are things that work very well together. Okay, so that's Mexico, and I think Mexican cuisine. That's why it works so well. That's why we like it so much. And you don't have to get into the huge beef cheese thing so much. It's kind of almost like a Tex-Mex or Mexican American. Tex-Mex being maybe more the pepper side, and I know there's a lot of things I'm not talking about. A lot of fruits and vegetables that are more the Mexicans know about. I do apologize when I say it's maybe hopefully make it kick to Mexico. So going on to Central America. Actually, I think I might bypass Central America. I'm just not as familiar with it, but they have a lot of course tropical fruits that are amazing there that they only have there that we don't. So they, huge and more big into the more unfamiliar stuff. And I'm also going to bypass Cuba, perhaps. Getting more though. I'm going to get to South America in just a sec. Getting to like Jamaican cuisine and maybe some of the islands in the Caribbean. The reason I think I've had jambalaya and stuff, but I think I'm kind of similar to Mexico, but maybe Jamaicans seem like, at least Rastafarians seem like they're even more into just eating fruits and vegetables. We're talking about a lot of tropical fruits and a lot of starchy stuff. It's like a plantain is huge. The plantain is big in South America as well. Avocado is more Mexico also in South America, but in Jamaica and other islands of the Caribbean, I'm sure they eat a lot of banana, a lot of coconut, a lot of that stuff, and a lot of sweet potato, and probably a lot of green onion too, and they make all those soups and jambalaya with. I know that there's a lot of Rastafarian diets. You can't have basically almost any there's a meat or fish or forbidden. I think some people might have a little bit of fish or egg, but it's really very vegan almost. And so shrimp, I think, is technically out of bounds. But I know shrimp. A lot of people love shrimp in Jamaica and the Caribbean, so I think it's often shrimp is just often very, along with all the other foods they cook with it and everything. A lot of coconut stuff in it. So I think that again with the Caribbean, it's more about the fruit. but more like it's a mangoey, pineapple, coconut, banana, pina colada thing, and it's just those tropical fruits that are starchier that work better with shrimp and work better with the fruit in these tropical areas is also, it's both fruit and a grain basically, or it has a lot of starch. Some of these guys like plantains, right? And sweet potatoes are kind of more vegetable, but you talk about vegetables. A lot of vegetables we have in northern parts of the world, they don't. It's just a little different. They have what they have, but you know, you could find things like collard greens because or at least some things grow well in warmer areas. But anyway, so, okay, so. And also, I should mention I'm more familiar with Mexican cuisine than Caribbean or Jamaican, so I can only speak from personal experience. It does seem though like the andouille sausage or jambalaya, it seems like there are certain things like the paprika and all the spices they use and that sort of thing in Caribbean. There's a lot you could do that maybe hasn't been done before, so maybe there's Mexican cuisine to me might seem a bit more, no offense, basic with some of the cooked things. You might have lots of tropical fruits, but it seems like there's a lot of avenues you could go with new dishes, maybe perhaps in the Caribbean, because of all the different kinds of, I don't know, there might be more possibilities. But getting to South America, I have to get through this a little bit, sorry. South America, I know Colombia, Venezuela, somewhat of what they like to have a lot of avocado. I know that Europe is a bigger deal in South America in general, especially talking about the southern part. But really, Peru seems like it's kind of a melting pot of cuisine, so we'll kind of bypass Peru. Although, of course, the Andes, Incan tribe and Quechua and all those other guys, I know that the big three were, I think, beans, quinoa, and potatoes. Yeah, quinoa, beans, potatoes, something like that. Or quinoa is in there. And then, of course, you have some local fruit. They have a lot of different kinds of fruit, like Estrella cherry. That's the tip of the iceberg, right? But meat gets to be a bigger deal. I think, of course, Argentina and Chile, of course. In Brazil, we have something in the United States called the Fogo de Chaya. We have like these really nice Brazilian restaurants that kind of focus on meat and the traditional way of cooking meat in Brazil. And so a lot of different kinds of meat at these places, like lamb and beef and pork. There's other kinds of meats I can't think of right off the top of my head. But I realize that most people don't eat this way in Brazil. But it's kind of like But there's a lot of talking about South America. A lot of the uniquenesses of different cuisines, I think, in South America have a lot to do with what's grown there. But in Brazil, you just have oodles of different kinds of fruits and vegetables. Fruits, especially cashew nut, acai. That all comes from Brazil. And there's all kinds of things I'm even thinking of right now that Brazilians have all kinds of fruits and things. And so again, maybe Italian and German, are two biggies, especially to get into Argentina. But I don't know. From what I've had, I think it's all. I love South American cuisine. It's just, to me, it's harder to really identify what is South American and what it's not. So it might be something for the future. So again, just to sum up so far with the Americas, Mexican cuisine for me seems to emphasize the peppers and cumin and how all the different foods that they have there, the squashes and the beans and the tomatoes and everything, just kind of work together to kind of give you everything you need in a little bit. So it's nice, solid, straightforward, nothing too unexpected. Jamaican or the Caribbean cuisine is more about that, pineapple, banana, coconut thing. So it might be seem kind of a bit more, again, beach party thing, along with oranges or whatever. But to me, there's just a little bit more zest, maybe in a certain sense, or a little bit more party. That jambalaya word, it almost suggests like this party in your mouth thing. You want some good stuff in there too. I don't know. It's I have to understand it a little bit better still. I'm trying to. Canada, again, Caribbean being a mix of, yeah, I mean, American Indian a little bit, but African big time, plus some European influences, along with the Americans. So, and anyway, I'm going to move on here for a bit. I'm probably most familiar with Mexican cuisine, to basically let you guys know. So, we're going to kind of skim, I don't want to skim past Europe too much, but when it comes to Northern Europe in general, and so this is, Scotland, Ireland, England, Norway, Sweden, Finland, Denmark, Germany, Holland. I could probably include Eastern Europe, Russia, Poland, the whole of Northern Europe. What works about with the cuisines there? What works? It's kind of, in a way, it's a little bit like Mexican cuisine, where you kind of try to cover the bases in a meal, but in a way, it's very different. In Mexico, they're all about the peppers and the spices and the vegetables and fruit. The like cilantro, cumin, some other stuff I can't remember, but all the little things, the green things, the tomatillos and avocado and yeah. There's a lot of in Northern Europe. There's a lot of more pickled food. It gives it kind of extra vinegary, a lot of vinegar taste. Beets and cabbage, and there's a lot of those, turnips and rutabaga, and we have the starchy crops that grow in Northern Europe, along with the meat, along with the berries and apples, and I'm not gonna get into alcohol stuff, whatever, but combination of root vegetables with green vegetables, which with the apples and berries, with meat, and also dairy. Dairy. So really, when it comes to Europe, what people like about European cuisine, Northern European, let's say, is just how filling it can be. It can be very, very filling with that dairy, with the meat and the bread, right? And with the bread, so you cover the bases, but there's that extra kind of pickled or vinegary element with a lot of the foods from Northern and Eastern Europe, as well as your borscht and things, a very beet thing going with the East. And it also, I first mentioned fish. Northern Europe isn't necessarily known for having the best cuisine in the world, but there's definitely a lot of variety, particularly with animal foods, but also even berries. They have lingonberries up there too. Those kind of in currants and things. A lot of berries that are sweet, but also a lot of berries that are very astringent and healthy for you. Getting to Southern Europe, you have a lot more herbs. It's just herb. Oregano and basil reign supreme, right, in Italy and Greece. And, honestly, I know you can include Greece more with the Middle East a little bit, but we're talking about Italy and talking about Southern Europe, Southern France and Spain. There's a lot of herbs, and also citrus fruits, like oranges and lemons. And you have your pasta, you have your cheese and your meat, of course, Parma ham. I know about all that stuff. What works about it, though, I know there's the big pasta cheese folks. I don't want to. I know the more people that love pasta and cheese, and you have the eggplant and olives and shrimp and grapes. But it's I'm not talking about wine, just looking on. But the thing is what works with Southern European cuisine, I think, is that people say the Mediterranean diet is so healthy, and I think a lot of that's this mix of olive oil with some enough grain, and they try to watch their meat, I think, more or less. At least the Mediterranean, the idea is, if we need to have less meat than Northern Europe. Northern Europeans are the meat eaters, right? So, right, okay. Well, yeah, there's something said for that. I mean, if you go to Italy, I bet you the Italians probably do have less meat than, say, your New York Italians. I don't know. It's hard to pass up those hot dogs in New York. Big, just like a thing of pizza, or keep going on. All kinds of great Italian sausages, just like in Germany. But so anyway, I mean, Europe is kind of. Everyone says French food is the best, but France is probably a little bit more like, I don't know. They're all about the soups and their stews and their frog legs and everything that's really juicy or nothing's nothing's overcooked. So French food, I think, is very sophisticated. But again, looking at the Italians, I think Italian food works really well because you have a nice combination of flavors with the basil, oregano, green stuff, and maybe some garden vegetables like spinach and artichoke and things. And then you have all that green stuff with the citrus and the grapes, and you also have the cheesy pasta, eggplant stuff, and tomato. I forgot about tomato too. Tomato and citrus work very well with tomato and basil. Tomato and basil is a marriage made in heaven. Getting to Greece, Middle East here, moving that way a little bit. We're talking about kind of a combination of a lot more lamb with mint. Again, this is like Greece all the way to Iran and Arabia, and getting down almost to India. But the whole Middle East is like it's all about the cucumber, tomato, salad type stuff. With you have some other stuff in there that's really I've had, and the olives and the mint and the lamb and the cinnamon and seasoned lamb. I think I haven't had camel before. I imagine it's pretty good. But of course, you have a lot of honey, Israel, and dates, and to me, I think that if you don't have lamb in a Middle Eastern cuisine kind of thing, you're kind of missing out. But it still works well. I mean, chicken. I know it's like it either has to be kosher, it has to be. What's the word? I'm trying to think here. There's another word. Muslim food dietary has to be halal or kosher, right? So that's why it influences a lot of foods down there. So again, a good combination of flavors. Just a little bit different kinds of stuff going on there. Figs, pomegranate, maybe not more fig, date, grapes, fruits and things, but almonds. Let's go eastward before we get to Africa. So we get to India. Oh, gee, what can I say? I know so much about India. With India, obviously the huge thing with India is spices, but also, lamb and goat, right? And they have like naan bread with the. I know I'm kind of going through this a little quicker than I thought I would. I know the main thing I want to focus on soon is Japan. I'll get there. But, with India, Indian cuisine, I'm always up for that. Very rarely am I not up for Indian. I love Indian cuisine. But yeah, it's big into the spices. They have hundreds of spices. And they are the spice country. Sri Lanka, India. The spice country. Get to Southeast Asia, I know you get more into the lemongrass thing and galangal and, I don't know, yellow curry. They have red curry, they have the green curry, they have a lot more mango-y, peanutty things going on. Fried pad thai with the peanuts. So a little bit different flavor combinations going on there, but for me, I kind of see a more Indian influence in Southeast Asian cuisine. I know I'm grouping them all together. Thailand, I know they're all different. Cambodia, Vietnam. With Vietnam, honestly, I know there's a French influence there, but because of the nature of, let's see, to me, there's a little bit more of a crossover with, of course, Vietnam and China, but China sometimes the United States seems being such a meat-eating country, but really it's Chinese American cuisine that's very meaty. But yeah, there's definitely a connection between Vietnam and China, and I haven't ever had Laotian cuisine. I just know that Thai food. I've never had Burmese, but Thai food to me seems a bit more like. Yeah, I don't know. I sometimes see the connection with India better. But I know that there's also that kind of star anise, South Chinese thing with Southeast Asia as well, with a lot of some of their spices they'll use, licorice root, whatever. So let's get to China. I think China is kind of a bit like Europe in a way, where you have a real nice combination of vegetables. But in their case, of course, China has more rice, but rice and wheat a little bit in the north with the steamed, pork buns and the the steamed rolls and things. But really, it's most we think of more rice. I think southern China, southern central China. It's a combination of rice. You have our meats. You have your spices and like ginger. Ginger is a big deal in China. Also India, but also China. So, and then vegetables and fruit isn't quite as prominent in Chinese cuisine, but it's nice to eat a lot of protein, a lot of different kinds of protein, and soy. There's a little bit of beans in there. Well, sesame seed. Um, yeah, you feel like you cover the bases pretty well. And notice there's a trend here. With every cuisine, they have their own unique kind of foods. But they try to cover the bases with regards to human health and proteins, fats, carbohydrates, right? And Korea, I know like more like Europe in regards to having kimchi and pickled foods. And Korea, I see, is very similar to China, and they have more meats, and they have, but they also kind of like Japan with the way they do the fishes and some of their funkier kind of flavors, right, in Korea. Now, I wanted to get to Japan because I wanted to mention something special: sushi. The thing is, so much of why we want to go out to eat. Sometimes you want to try something different. Sometimes you want something filling. Sometimes you want something sweet. Sometimes if someone wants to go to IHOP, for instance, they're probably wanting a lot of sweet meats, right? A lot of sausage and bacon and butter and sweet buttermilk pancakes, right? That's kind of the orange juice. When you go to a Japanese restaurant, that you're thinking, oh, I want something fish or healthy, right? Fish or mushroom or vegetable or and sushi. We like sushi. Some of us like sushi, some of us not. But for some people that have sushi, like myself, we love it, and we don't know necessarily why that is. It's the flavor of the soy, or it's the flavor of the wasabi. And even though most wasabi is just horseradish, right? I know wasabi root's not very common, and I know it's expensive. So there's a lot of reasons why it's not always used as much as horseradish. So we wonder what makes sushi so special. We have all these different cuisines, from the most elegant French cuisine, their fine tuning of how they know precisely how to cook things, and all the pastries I didn't even mention about in Europe, to Indian spices and garam masala. What makes sushi so special? Sushi is just these little rolls, right? These little rolls, just like rice and seaweed and some fish, like a daikon radish, or sometimes in America we put avocado in it and stuff. What makes sushi so special? Dip it in soy or ginger or horseradish. Well, it is the combination of flavors, but I would suggest there's something else going on. So it's definitely not sugar. I mean, if anything, as you probably have guessed, the East Asians don't really do sugar. It's well, yeah, but it's they're like, oh yeah, we're trying to stay trim. If there's any area of the world, I mean, I think in some respects I mentioned something about Polynesia earlier on in another video, mentioning that Polynesians originally were not as much as into the sweet thing. But I mean, also with the older Polynesians, East Asians were very careful with their sugar intake. I mean, they had Bing cherries, and some kind of cherry, I think. But they also had mandarins, right? And definitely had a lot of sweet fruits over there, not just in Southeast Asia, but also Eastern Asia as well. But they were very, just careful about how much sugar they had. I don't need to tell you this. It's really easy to look up something on YouTube about an old, it could be martial arts related, it could be something else. The guys are trying to get someone really, really in good shape, and only eat rice and fish, and the only sweets they're allowed is a little bit of honey. Just a little bit of honey in their tea or water. We know about this, and so you just don't have a lot of sweet stuff. In Japan, they will spend $10 on a mango or something. I don't know. Fruit's not very common in Japan, especially. I know the melons and pears and other things. There's the Asian pear, right? That might be more of a Chinese, and plums might be more of a Chinese Korean thing. In Japan, fruit is not a very common thing. So, what's appealing about this stuff? Well, do you think it's the salt? Are they replaced? Are the Asians, say, at least Japanese? Are the Japanese more replacing sugar with salt, sodium? What's the appeal? Well, ginger is very flavorful. Wasabi is very flavorful. Rice is your base. It's not flavorful at all, but it's nice. It's a very nice texture. I bet you, the Japanese have a very, 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 very well-developed sense of texture in food. They know so well. These sushi chefs just have this intimate knowledge of the different textures of each of the foods that go into sushi, like the fish, how the fish are filling, more of the filling part of the sushi, how they're, the flavors of the fish when they're sushi grade fish, maybe a touch sweeter than cooked fish. I'm thinking of salmon maybe, but there's a kind of natural sweetness to a very small extent in fish, or a peculiar kind of sweetness. Or we'll just say something refreshing, and it's filling. And it tastes good. Salmon in particular, I think, has a certain kind of sweetness to it. But there's a saltiness as well, but it's not an over saltiness, and we get some of that saltiness from soy. But let's just think about this here. The Chinese understand this very well. There's yin and yang with flavors. The Japanese have their hot, cold sinuses, wasabi, horseradish, right? You have your filling fish. You have your rice, it's kind of nice, kind of cools everything down. You have seaweed that provides extra iodine and it's a nice green color. It adds that vegetable thing, plus daikon radish adds a little bit of zest. It's really a combination of flavors and textures, and the sushi guys just know exactly what is satisfying. And put that sushi in our mouth. The only thing that a lot of people have to get over is their avoidance of raw fish. If you can eat raw fish, and you're okay with stomaching, you have to trust that sushi grade fish, and that's not going to give you food poisoning. But I trust the sushi chefs. I've never gotten food poisoning ever from any decent sushi place. Now you can get food poisoning if you eat sushi at a buffet, which I never recommend. Don't do it. And I'm really iffy on the grocery store sushi as well. But and of course some sushi has crab in it. Crab is great. We always love crab. It kind of makes it very smooth, right? It's all about texture more than anything else. In addition to the flavor, it's the textures of sushi that set it way up. And I think the French might understand this as well. The French are, again, they like that oily stuff. They don't like anything to be too dried out. If you get the French and the Japanese, these are two very highly developed cuisines along with India, and some other ones as well. I'd say China too, but it's Japan. They know what they're doing. They know. I mean, really, I love it. But if you were to go on to other areas of the world, I mentioned more about the cuisine of Polynesia in a different video. But so that's maybe more a different video. But getting to Africa, last but least, and of course we mentioned things about New Zealand, Australia. That's more European. Somewhat. What I've had from Africa, you have to kind of distinguish between West and East. In my experience, and Eastern Africa cuisines, Ethiopian cuisine, Kenyan cuisine, especially Ethiopia, Somalia, there's a lot of connections with those guys in India because, of course, a lot of folks that came over to India anciently came from East Africa. But there's a lot, the spices that they use, but the East Africans use certain unique grains. I went to I think it was an Ethiopian restaurant a while back, and the grains were spectacular. They have certain grains. It's you actually you might think African cuisine isn't especially filling. It is, but the emphasis is sometimes, at least in East Africa, a lot more on the grains. But the grains are so healthy for you, and there's a lot of non-glutinous grains, and they're different colors, and so the grains are kind of the big thing. And they have a little bit of meat, just a little bit, and a little bit of seasoning. But it's nice. It's very nice, and again, it's a combination of I don't know what to call it, vegetable, but it's like your root things, maybe starchy veggies, somewhat, with a lot of grains, a lot of ground up grains that make into breads that are again are very unique in East Africa, and a little bit of fruit, and a bit of meat, and yeah, it's nice, but it's more grain based. I know in Somalia also, certain cuisines they have more dairy as well, not as much meat, but more dairy, depending on I guess the tribe. A lot of people might think in East African cuisine is very spicy. Not necessarily. It can be very mild as well. But you're also going to get some cinnamon stuff too. And that cinnamon is very popular. I know in not only Arabia, in India, but also East Africa. Yeah. So getting to West Africa, it's a little bit more. What is it? Black pepper. Love chicken, but you have your a lot of sweet potato, yam, okra. Okra is very big. Certain other kinds of starchy things and vegetables like that. But to me, East African cuisine might seem a tad bit more sophisticated than West African. But really, I like both cuisines. They both work very well. But probably have more of the pepper type. Not necessarily hot pepper, but like different kinds of. I don't know. It's just a different kind of thing in West Africa. There's a bigger connection between Southern soul food and Jamaican cuisine in the United States and Caribbean with West Africa. So I think maybe explaining Jamaican cuisine, you'll see some connections more with West Africa, of course, because that's where. And East Africa is more like India, the way they cook. Even the connection between non-bread and East African breads, you're going to see some connections there sometimes. So I guess in summary, I'm getting a little tired here. What I wanted to mention is something having to do. I forgot to mention kind of how all these cuisines tie in with maybe uniquenesses and kind of the personality of different cultures. But just think about this here for a sec. What are Mexicans often known for? Caribbean. Party, right? Well, that's one of the things. Think, social, outgoing, fun, party, and yeah, in South America, same thing. And so their diet, their food, kind of reflects that a little bit. The colors and things. Same thing with the Mediterranean, which has a connection, of course, to Latin America. In Northern Europe, meat and potatoes, right? This kind of, it's a little bit different, right? It's a bit more. Maybe it seems more serious. It's colder weather food, right? Fuel food, right? And fish and everything like that. So it's very connected with the culture of Northern Europe. Northern Europeans can be a little bit more reserved and a bit more serious than your average person. Yeah, but we also have berries and things, and we like to. So, yeah. Getting down to the Middle East, I don't know. I kind of see Middle Eastern cuisine as being very connected with holy books like the Bible and Quran, and kind of that kind of thing. But of course, I forgot to mention, in Arabia, with ideas, unless you never know, you can still have enemies. But the Arabians, I know, are famous for, if you are stranded in the desert and you visit them, Arabians are famous for their hospitality, right? Basically, they don't want, they want to be nice to you. But a lot of the food that we know kind of is more Middle Eastern, like honey and dates and things, lamb and goat. It's satisfying, but I'm hearing this biblical thing, right? Honey and I think what was it? Crickets? I don't know. What did John Baptist eat? Honey and butter? I don't know. So I'm thinking, oh yeah, Passover. That's that kind of train of thought. And then, so yeah, it's kind of epic and biblical, or it's kind of anyway, deserty a little bit. And then India. Well, in India, Indians are spicy. I don't know. It's kind of there's kind of that party thing going on, but also it's a little bit of what's the word here? I think that the Indian people are very friendly and warm, and I just love India in general. And when you think of Indian food, there's that kind of that warmth and the different flavors. The different flavors are kind of like, I don't know, just I don't know. It's like there's a lot of variety in India, perhaps that's the best way of putting it. But yeah, I mean, it's if in Mexico, for instance, they're all about their tomatillos, tomatoes, avocado, guacamole, and stuff, and it's red and green. And India is kind of different, where there's all these different spices, and I don't know, it's cassia, cinnamon, saffron. It's just kind of and maybe it's more like savory. You just want to savor everything, the stewed lamb and everything, and the spices. They like to get that flavor in it, and of course East Asia. You see this again. I hate it. I know. There's a lot more of this kind of okay. Here we go. Get out the food and kind of this efficiency kind of thing. You might see sometimes. We might think about this in the similar respect with Northern Europe. And talking about efficiency, talking about order, Japan, right, is what I'm thinking of. And then I don't know, Africa. It's kind of like India, East Africa, but it's all in the. Think about this connection with soul food in the southern United States and African pepper chicken. I don't know. I've been to an African restaurant. It's been a while, but I guess watermelon and okra and some other cola nut, I think, down at West Africa, plus pumpkin, squash, that kind of stuff. A lot of gourds, kind of foods. And something I didn't mention, Central Asia, Mongolia, but you're basically kind of talking about a synthesis somewhat of European and it's just a lot of meat. That's why it might seem European, but it's yak and yak milk and Mongolia, so it's Eurasian. But I see sometimes a bit more of a connection with perhaps Europe because it's a bit colder. But and of course, a lot of fish up in Siberia. And so I suggest again, Polynesia. No, it's kind of fun but again, that sweet thing, that sweet fruit thing. It's not as more recent thing. I would just suggest to you guys, there's some interesting connections between the foods of these different places and kind of the personality of these different cultures. And it's interesting to think about these kinds of things sometimes. Yeah, and I'm not saying that Swedes and Finns are completely standoffish by the fact that their foods have no spices. I'm just saying. Well, if you compare Scandinavian and say Indian, I don't know, it's going to be. You can kind of see, and it's just what grows there a lot of times. But you can see that, there's kind of this thing. This Scandinavians have this thing for nutmeg, and the almond cookies, right? They love the little bakery spice things that maybe come from India, but in India, maybe they see these spices as being a little bit better for meat. They want the savory food, and Scandinavians originally were more about the nice flavor in their sweets to contrast with their, fish and meat and dairy. But now, of course, in this world, modern world, we have all kinds of mixes of things, and we have currywurst in Germany. So anyway, something that I know strict Hindus wouldn't eat because it's pork and beef. But I think they're using Indian spices. But they probably like the fame of having their spices used by the Germans. The Germans are like, curry, yeah. Anyway, all right. I'll talk to you guys a little bit later. Have a good night. Bye.